I'm going to zoom back into this area. So the background layer is special in that, well, it's locked for one thing. Another thing about background layers is that they are not transparent. Um, that's kind of an esoteric thing to say right now, but you'll notice that a lot of things are grayed out. I can't utilize opacity. You know, that might make sense to you, like I can make it slightly transparent, but because the background layer isn't transparent, I can't utilize that because there's no transparency to it. That's the most unique aspect to a background layer. Um, for that reason, they can sometimes be a little bit difficult to work with and not always the best layer to have. So let's just go ahead and make a new layer. So looking down on the bottom, you're going to see that you've got some pretty common tools on the bottom of this layer palette. The trash can, I'm sure, makes a pretty good sense if you want to throw a layer away. This here is going to be, let's see, if I hold on it, will it? Creates new layer. These two people tend to kind of click on both by accident. So this one creates a group. You might also think of that as a folder. I think it looks like a folder when you just look at the visual of it. Right here we have some adjustments. Let's not even worry about that right now, but that's called an adjustment. This is called a mask. This is actually really important, these two things, and they're right here really quickly accessible because they are such a common thing, but we're not going to work with that right off the bat. And these are some effects that we can work with, and then some. When you see this kind of like looks like a chain, I think that looks like a chain to me. I don't know if that does to you, but the links of a chain, that's usually when you want multiple things to be linked together, to move together. So, let's not worry about any of those necessarily. This is our big one right here, and we'll just basically be sticking with create a new layer. That's basically all we'll work with, and maybe throw away a layer. So I'm just going to click on that. You'll see I'm going to zoom out so you can see it as it's created. Layer 1. So layer 1 is not necessarily the best name, but you can see that it is now selected. It's got this gray color, so that means selected. If I click on the background, you see now the background is gray and it is selected. So layers are selectable. You'll also notice that layer 1 has this checkerboard to it, and that checkerboard means that it is transparent. Okay, so when we see checkerboards, that's Photoshop's way of telling us that something is empty or there is a transparency to this. Okay, where we see background, we don't see any of those checkers because it is not transparent. That's one of the things about it. So again, if I click on layer 1, it's selected. Background, it is selected. Take a look at the things above too. Notice, remember I was saying how these are all grayed out because it's not transparent. So all these things won't apply to this layer, but if I click on layer 1, you can see all these things do apply. So I can use opacity. You're not familiar with this sort of stuff, but this has a relationship to transparency as well. And then some of these settings as well will have relations to that as well. So, not important that we work with, we're not really going to work with any of this up there, but I just want you to sort of start to recognize, like, oh, okay, so the background layer is special. And really the big deal is that it's not transparent. Okay, that's the thing to kind of take away from that. Why that's going to relate or be important to understand, it's going to take time for that to come to you. Okay. And let's not get into it too much. So I don't really need this background layer. I'm actually going to just go ahead and delete it. So if I just click on the garbage can, it says, do you want to delete the background layer? And I'll say yes. And so now you can see that my whole layer changed here. Now I see the checkerboard, which tells me I'm on a layer, but it's transparent. There's nothing in it. Okay. So we have layer 1. I'm just going to zoom in on this layer and I'm going to give it a name, and I'm going to do that by clicking on the word layer 1. See that? Just double click on it, it turns highlighted like that. I'm going to name it, I'm just going to name it lines for now.